FOMO.
My name's Patrick McGinnis, and I'll admit it, I have FOMO. And since you're here, I'm going to bet that you do too. But that doesn't have to be a bad thing. If you learn to channel your FOMO productively, you can make the most of every opportunity while keeping your sanity in the process. This is FOMO Sapiens After Hours, the snackable show about how you can make FOMO a force for good. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of FOMO Sapiens After Hours. I am so glad to be here with you. And if you listened to last week's episode, and I hope you did, and if you didn't, then pause this and go and listen, you will remember that we spoke to Daniel Ryan, the hypnotist. And I had him on the show for a specific reason, because hypnotism is one of those things that you hear about, is misunderstood. You think it's going to be what it was, in your college, the naughty hypnotist or whatever. I never went to those, but I remember they were. I just was like, what is that? I never went. But it is so different and it can really help you. And so I just wanted to sort of have him on the show to demystify something that for me is really cool and I really enjoyed. And it's good for a lot of things. So by the way, I'm not making advertisement for the hypnotism industry here, but I was doing some research about why people go, and it's for everything from to be more confident when you're doing public speaking and to kind of deal with nerves. It can be for sleeping. It can be to quit something, like smoking or biting your nails or some other sort of vice, as it were. It can be for dieting and stress management. It can be for fear. So all kinds of different stuff. And in fact, that's what got me started on this whole thing with hypnotism, that I wasn't fear so much, but it was kind of like after the financial crisis when my job blew up and everything, I felt a lot of anxiety around that. And I felt like sort of just like bad feelings around all the stuff that had happened. And so somebody said, go to a hypnotist. And so I went to this guy who is a master hypnotist. And this guy, I'm not going to say his name, but he is in New York City. And I went to him and he was amazing. I really, really liked him. And he had been doing this for a long time. In fact, he got into the business of hypnotism because he had been a smoker, a very heavy smoker, and he couldn't quit. And he finally quit through hypnotism. And I think he smoked like 4 packs a day or something, he told me. And then eventually he learned how to hypnotize other people because hypnotism helped him so much that he wanted to sort of give that back to people. Now, that's not a great business model if you're curing people of something and they don't come back to you. But, he does all kinds of other things too, like what I was in there for with him. And I'll tell you about the experience because I think it's cool to sort of get into it. I referred to it a little bit in the episode, but let me tell you a little bit more. So I went into his office and he actually put on this like vibrating sound, and it's the vibrating sound is supposed to sort of coalesce your brain waves to a certain level. And that makes it easier for you to get into a trance. And then he had me lay on this couch and sort of do this exercise where I counted backwards, and in my head, I would write a number down on a chalkboard and then erase it, like 99, and then 98, erase it, 97, erase it, and so on and so forth. And when I get to 90, I'd have to start again at 99. And I did that a couple of different times until he asked me, he gestured to me and said something like, please, move your right finger if you believe that you have reached the point where you are feeling deep relaxation. And so I did. And then he sort of took me on this journey. It was really kind of interesting. He had me get, I believe it was not like an escalator, and go down. And then I went down into this subterranean space. And when you get there, it's like walking into a room in mind. You're imagining these things in your mind, right? And you walk in and you see these colors. And I remember seeing these kind of dark colors, kind of almost like an inky color with some flashes of different brighter colors. And then he sort of started to say like, don't feel bad about this, and tried to disassociate the way I felt, don't focus on the negative, and you don't want to be upset about this anymore, and sort of giving me suggestions about how I should think about these feelings. And then he sort of reversed the whole thing and I was out. And when I remembered the whole thing, and in fact, so I was sort of like woke up and I was like, well, I don't think it worked. And he said, oh, you were definitely hypnotized. I said, I don't know. I remember everything. And he said, no. There are tells. Your eyes were fluttering. There was, I guess, particularly like the arteries or veins in your neck, they sort of pulse. And that's a sign to the hypnotist that you are in fact in a trance. I didn't think so, but what was crazy too is then he gave me a glass of water and he said, isn't this glass of water tasty? And in fact, it was like everything was enhanced. I just sort of felt like, wow, this is so delicious. And I walked home. I think I sang as I was walking down the street because you just feel so good. I was really kind of loopy. but I just felt so amazing. It's kind of like you feel like you just woke up from a 19-hour sleep, but in a good way, not when you're like feeling gross after you sleep. I felt relaxed. I felt good. I felt well-being. I think I walked home from Midtown to my apartment in Lower Manhattan, and I just felt like, wow. And so I just really, I had such a positive experience with that. And I went to Daniel Ryan, who of course I talked to on the show the other day for something else. And I loved his approach. It was a little different because unlike the sort of more traditional approach, I guess I would say, I thought it was kind of more traditional approach of like, don't do this, don't do that. His is a little bit more about like connecting positive things. So the idea is you want to kind of rewire your brain so that when a certain thing happens or you think of a certain thing, you don't have negative feelings, you have positive feelings. And so he was more like rewiring the brain towards, when you think of this, feel good about this, or think about the positive aspects of this thing. And so I was able to then, it was crazy, we talked about it after, and it was sort of like, I started to realize that the way that I saw certain things had changed. Somehow like the association was different. And so like something that before would have been a very normal way of thinking about something, all of a sudden you're like, well, that's just not how I see the world. And so it's amazing. And having talked to people who've done it to quit things, it's sort of like you have somebody who, I've had friends who've done everything from, they went to quit smoking. Right. And so, somebody was telling me that when they quit smoking, the idea, it's not that they didn't have withdrawals, but like the idea of picking up a cigarette after that, it's like, it's like something they didn't do. You might as well pick up a snake. It's like, I don't touch those things. I mean, that's kind of where the mind is, even though you touch them every day for a long time. I've also had a friend whose father was very ill with cancer, and every time he drank water, when he drank the water, it would make, basically he couldn't drink it because it tasted very bad to him, like almost like a weird kind of battery taste. And because of hypnotism, he could drink the water again. And so he was totally fine. So it was really interesting that. And as I talked to Daniel, by the way, he has a different approach too, because it's not, he sort of had me go, I shouldn't probably reveal his secrets on the internet, but I'll just tell you that you sort of like go into a place where you feel very safe. Like you think about a place where you've always felt very safe. And then from there, you sort of get into this state of almost like watching a film on the wall. And so when I walked into the room where we watched the film, because you get to the safe space and you sort of like get in an elevator and you go down, and that's more like getting down into your subconscious, right? When I walked into that room, I saw the same colors, that inky color and the bright colors that I had seen before. And I asked him about that because we did a little debrief, and he said, oh yeah, it's your subconscious, which is crazy, right? You get to hang out with your subconscious. And I think it's a lot of people cry at that point apparently, because it's pretty heavy in a good way. It's sort of, if you're in a good space and you like yourself and you get to meet yourself in your deepest level. And I know I sound like a crazy nut right now, but just like roll with me on this one. It was cool. And I thought that was like a pretty profound experience. So I really liked it. And I found that it really works. And in fact, I'm actually going to go back to Daniel, this sort of doing this episode. I'll totally confess, like one of my big fears, I'm really afraid of doctors. I always have been, because when I was a little kid, my doctor, I was kind of an overweight child. And he said just the meanest stuff to me. He said one time, like, I guess you don't starve yourself, do you? Stuff like that. That was crazy. And it gave me a lot of hangups with doctors. And so as a result, I really hate going to the doctor. Every time I go, I swear to God, like I walk in there and I'm like sweating bullets. And so I'm going to go to Daniel because that's something that he can help me with, he told me. So I'm going to check it out, and hopefully that will, because you need to go to the doctor. We're going to see this in about 2 weeks. We have a special guest on the show, Sergey Young. He wrote a book about how to stay young forever. And one of his advice pieces was like, you have to go to the doctor. If you want to live, you have to first not die. And so going to the doctor is really important. And as I read that, I thought, I need to get over my fear of doctors. And then I thought of Daniel, and we shall see how it goes. I will let you know how it goes, but it's important. So that's the thing that I want to try out. And I know that it's a good strategy for me anyway, because having talked with Daniel and the other person that I worked with, it's hard for me to get into a trance because I tend to overthink things. You might have noticed about me, but it's very powerful. Somehow hypnotism works really well for me. And that's not for everybody. Some people, I don't want to, over promise the benefits here, because you could go to a hypnotist and you find it doesn't help. Right. But I will say that for me so far, and when I've gone, it's been super powerful. And I don't know what that says about me, but apparently like 20-30% of people just are really receptive to it. So I'm glad, because I would much rather do something like hypnotism that is, a small investment of time and money, but doesn't require you to take anything. There's no side effects. It's really enjoyable. You might even sing while you're walking down the street in Manhattan. Last time I got hypnotism, I ended up at a Chick-fil-A, which I've never even had Chick-fil-A. It was delicious. Now, I know I was like, I shouldn't eat here because, it's problematic. But I did eat there that one time. And I think the hypnotism made it taste even better. So with that, I just wanted to explain that because why I had Daniel on and kind of my own experiences, because I don't know, it's one of the things that I'll try, many things at least once. And frankly, I enjoyed it so much that I've been back and I will be going back again soon. So if you have a view on this, or you've tried hypnotism and worked or didn't work, or you have some other strategies that you like to share, you can find me if you email me at letsconnect@patrickmcginnis.com or on Instagram at Patrick J. McGinnis or on Twitter at PJ McGinnis. I love hearing from you, as I've been telling you every week. Lots of good stuff coming in, lots of good questions, ideas, suggestions for guests. I am just loving it right now, having all the feedback. It's like, I don't know where it all came from, but it has been like the summer of great mail from listeners. And I read it and I respond. If you ask people, I do respond. Maybe not the same day, but I definitely get back to you. So have a great week and I will see you on Thursday. FOMO. Want more of FOMO Sapiens and After Hours? Head over to FOMOSapiens.com where you can listen to past episodes, learn more about the show, and find out how to advertise. You can also connect with me on Instagram at Patrick J. McGinnis and on Twitter at PJ McGinnis.